Samson and Delilah, but I will give you a brief overview of Samson in general. So essentially his story starts in like Judges 13, where the Bible essentially details how Samson came to be. This was a time where the children of Israel were doing evil and doing as they pleased, essentially. So it was chaotic, there was no king over Israel, and the people of Israel were going in and out of a time where they would look to God for help, God would rescue them, then they'd go back to their idols and back and forth. So that was happening over that time. During Samson's lifetime, the people of Israel were slaves to the Philistines, and it says in the Bible that this was the case for 40 years. So Samson's born to a man named Zora and his wife, who's barren. The angel of the Lord appears to them and tells them that they're going to have a son, but he has to be dedicated to the Lord. So he's going to be a Nazirite, and he's going to be a Nazirite from her womb, from his mother's womb, right? And then they're given a set of rules and things that needs to be done in order for that vow to be kept. So I will just read it in Judges 13. It just says, "Now, therefore, please be careful not to drink wine or similar drink, and not to eat anything unclean. For behold, you shall conceive and bear a son. No razor shall come upon his head, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hands of the Philistines." So God had a plan, right? He wanted to deliver the people out of the hands of the Philistines at this time. And he was going to use Samson to accomplish this mission. So Samson was a Nazirite from birth, which essentially means that he was consecrated, that he was dedicated to God, that he was holy, he was set apart. But Samson had many weaknesses, like we do as human beings. A lot of them were relating to women or relating to lust. He initially marries a Philistine lady, which is outside of his people. His parents had advised him, why can't you find a babe from our land? But he just did as he pleased. And he did that quite a few times in his story. So essentially he marries this Philistine lady. She essentially betrays him, and then that leads to a cascade of events where he essentially seeks vengeance against the Philistines, and the Philistines go after him. So essentially he kills in the beginning he kills 30 Philistines, and then he goes on to kill more people. He sets their land on fire, etc., etc. But the Philistines are now angry at Samson, right? They're not happy with him because he has done all these things. But because Samson was consecrated to God, because he was dedicated to him, he had the Spirit of God in him, and it says it in the scripture. And because of this, all the attempts of the Philistines to overpower Samson were unsuccessful. So that's the story that we hear about Samson. He was so strong, he was able to defeat them in various ways. So he judges over Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines. But essentially, Samson, although he was a Nazirite, and although he was dedicated or supposed to be dedicated to God, he had defiled his vows to God several times. So he married an unbeliever, he slept with prostitutes, he had unclean things, he ate honey, which he's not supposed to. So Samson wasn't very wise, and he basically did whatever he pleased. And then he met Delilah. So that's where we read in chapter 16, and the story goes on. So I hope I've given you a good summary of that story, a good understanding. I want us to interact a little bit. So what we're going to do is, are we ready for interaction? Good, thank you. So I'm going to split the room into two, and basically, I remember there's prizes, guys. So this will be side A and this will be side B. The question is, was Delilah the cause of Samson's downfall? So was Delilah alone the cause of Samson's demise, right? So your group A and your group B, it's a bit unfair, but it's okay. Group A, you're going to argue for, and group B, you're going to argue against. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes, come together as a group, sit in a circle, sit together, and think of some ideas for why Delilah was the cause of his demise. And you guys are going to think of ways that she was not the cause of his demise. So for example, as I explained in his story, he was going through, there was a cascade of events that he was essentially spiraling out of control, right? It wasn't just Delilah. I'm just giving you a little clue. It wasn't just Delilah, right? There was other things that had happened before he met Delilah and then he died. And then, yeah, so then you two guys are going to have just two spokespeople. After you come together with your ideas, two spokespeople who are essentially just going to speak for a little bit and argue the case. Whoever wins, whatever team has the strongest argument, you're going to get some prizes. Yeah? Is that okay with everyone? Does everyone understand? Yeah? Cool. So I'll give you 5 minutes and then we'll come back to it. Any question, just ask me in case the story was a bit too quick. And you can use Google, you can use whatever you want. Come together, guys. Come on.
I'm trying to see how good is my phone. So, second camera. I don't know.
I was wondering why you were gone. See that the desktop?
Yeah.
Does anyone know the password?
No, that one, Brother Emmanuel uses it. So it's not really set up.
Just as evidence, I'm going to give the previous prize winners their prizes now. So you know I'm not...
But, what was I saying? Hold on. I'm going to test this out first.
I checked my live stream.
Yeah.